At the start of a new game of Oblivion, you have a few spells to work with. One of these spells is Flare. Now, most people would try to get rid of Flare as fast as they could for a better spell, especially if you're a wizard. But what if you lack the brain cells to cast any other destruction spells? Can you beat Oblivion using only the Flare spell? Let's go over the rules real quick. Rule number 1. The only way for me to cause damage to an enemy is with the Flare spell. Rule number 2. I cannot use any other spells on myself or enemies, with the exception of spells that heal my allies. This rule was specifically put in for Boris, who likes to die as often as possible, and I like Boris too much to let him die. Rule number 3. I level up whenever possible to make the game more challenging. It's also set to normal difficulty because Oblivion's difficulty slider can be a bit too much to handle sometimes. Ready? Let's go. I wake up in my cell and decide to play as Breton for extra magic and better magic resistances. I randomize my character until I am pleased with how she looks, and then I name myself Molotov the Mother Lover, even though you can't see it because of my stupid face. Valandreth is a jerk to me as usual, and then Captain Jean-Luc Picard enters my cell and tells me that it's my destiny to help the Empire. I'm gonna try to skim over the tutorial pretty fast since we've all seen it like a billion times. I follow the Emperor for a while, then the Mythic Dawn attack, killing Captain Renault. The Blades tell me to stay put, and then I am attacked by a few rats. This is super easy as Flare is a very viable option for damage right now. I make my way deeper and get assaulted by more rats and a zombie. Even deeper, there are some goblins that I take care of quickly, and I meet back up with the Emperor. He gets attacked by the Mythic Dawn again, and then he asks me what sign I was born under. I picked the Mage for some extra magic, and then we continued onward, repelling the Mythic Dawn attackers. Eventually we come to a dead end, and I am asked to guard the Emperor with my life while Boris and Glenroy dispatch the Mythic Dawn. I failed, as usual, and Boris helped me take down the assassin. He tasked me with bringing the Amulet of Kings to Joffrey at Waynham Priory, and I made my own class. I picked magic as my specialization, intelligence and willpower as my favorite attributes, and I picked acrobatics, alchemy, armorer, destruction, light armor, security, and speechcraft as my major skills. The rest of the sewers were filled with rats and goblins, and I made it outside easily. My first stop was the market district, so I could sell my useless junk. And I could visit the 2 alchemists in town to buy some ingredients for healing and magic potions, as I would need as many of them as I could get for the playthrough. Outside of the city limits, I decided to find a dungeon to delve so I could possibly level up. I found a fort, and inside of it was a group of marauders fighting a group of bandits. I killed them all and left. I didn't level up, so I decided that I would fast travel to Waynham Priory and give the amulet to Joffrey. He told me that I needed to find the last heir of the Septim bloodline in Kavach. I decided to put that quest on hold for a moment and figured that I would try to do the Mages Guild questline now. I went to Coral and joined the Mages Guild, and made sure to take all of the alchemy supplies lying around so I could sell them back to the guild alchemist. And then I asked Tychius about a recommendation. He said that if I could help him get rid of Arana, I would get one. The first task was to talk to Arana and see why she was here. She wanted the Fingers of the Mountain book, and this was about the time that I decided I should probably do something more interesting, so I went to Kavach to start the rest of the main questline. When I arrived at the entrance to Kavach, I was greeted by Savlian Mattius, who was the captain of the guard, and I told him I'd help him shut the Oblivion Gate. He helped me clear the few Daedra outside of the gate, then I went in. I'm not going to cover any of the Oblivion Gates I do in great detail unless necessary, because I do a lot of them in this playthrough, and for the most part, they're all the same anyways. Killing the stunted scamps could have been easier, but I'll tell you now that late game I would have begged to fight stunted scamps over the other Daedra. Lots of walking around a hellscape until I come to the main tower. Then all I have to do is climb to the top while killing the Daedra, and voila! There you have one completed Oblivion Gate. Back outside, I decided to head to Coral so I could finish the Mages Guild quest and level up my character. All of my points in this challenge went into intelligence, willpower, and speed. Occasionally I would put some points into endurance. Now I have to climb up to Cloudtop to grab the Fingers of the Mountain book and bring it back to Tychius. With that done, I earned my recommendation and made my way back to Bruma for the next one. The head of this guild asked me to find Jaskar for her as he's gone missing. I ask around, and Volinaro tells me that he can help me find Jaskar as long as I steal Jean's manual of spellcraft from her desk and give it to him. Done deal. Later in the evening, I head to the guild living space and Volinaro casts a spell at Jaskar, who was invisible, and tells me that it was just a prank they put together. I return to Jean and get my recommendation. Now's when my plan to become a full member of the Mages Guild falls through. I go to Shadenhall and I am tasked with retrieving a Ring of Burden from the well, and when I go to retrieve the ring the first time, I mess up the timing a bit and drown. The next attempt, I got the ring and escaped the well with my life, but there was no indication that the quest had been furthered by me grabbing the ring. I talked to everyone in the guild, and it would seem that I have broken the quest, and I would never be able to make it into the Arcane University. Oh well. I head back to the Imperial City and buy some more armor. Then I go to the nearest inn so I can level up my character to 4. Since I broke the Mages Guild quest, I decided to go back to Kavach and finish that main quest up. Salvian Mattius thanks me and says that we have to go save the townsfolk trapped in the temple in the city, and this part was a little more difficult than the Oblivion Gate that I cleared. There were a lot of clan fear runts in the ruins of Kvatch, and I knew that they could do a lot of damage to me if they hit me. So I hopped on a rock hoping that they wouldn't be able to get me, as the guards were all slaughtered. I kept launching flares at them while Salvli and Mattias kept getting knocked unconscious. Eventually we dispatched them all, and we could get the townsfolk out. I made sure to grab the Kvatch guard armor from a corpse first, and made my way into the temple. Martin, the heir to the throne, was here, and he didn't really believe that he was the Emperor's son, but since I was now the hero of Kvatch, he agreed to follow me to Waynham Priory. When we arrived at the Priory, it was being attacked by the Mythic Dawn cult, and we had to eliminate them and make our way to Joffrey. At least Martin was competent with a dagger, and we were able to enter the temple and help Joffrey rather easily. We entered the main building and discovered that the Mythic Dawn had made off with the Amulet of Kings, but all hope was not lost as I had found Martin. Now we must get him to safety at Cloud Ruler Temple. When we arrive at Cloud Ruler, we are greeted by a bunch of off-kilter blades, and Martin gives a little speech to them. Joffrey asks me if I want to be a member of the Blades, and I agree. He then tasks me with meeting Boris in the Imperial City and working together to find out what we can about the Mythic Dawn cult. When I meet Boris at Luther Broad's boarding house, he informs me to follow him into the basement for a surprise. Sure thing, Boris. I love surprises, especially ones that involve killing cult members that follow us into the basement. Once Boris and I dispatch the cult member, he tells me to visit Tarmina at the Arcane University and give her the book I looted from the cultists since she knows a little bit about the Mythic Dawn cult. Before I start all of that fun stuff though, I decided that I needed a Heal Others spell for the next part of the quest. So I went to Shadenhall's chapel and talked to this lady who sells a cheap Heal Others spell, and since I didn't have the restoration skill to cast it, I had to buy some training from her too. Sadly, I didn't have the gold for training, so I had to think of an easy way to make money. Jail time! Once you get thrown into jail and serve your time, a few hours later, a representative of the Thieves Guild gives you a letter inviting you to join, and that's exactly what I did. After I passed the test that they make you do to join, I was able to fence stolen goods, and I knew the best place to get easy money from stolen goods. There's a jewelry store in the market district, and if you have the lockpick skill to open all of the cabinets, you can make out with a couple of $100 gold worth of jewelry. I went to Bruma to fence my items, then back to Shadenhall Chapel to train the rest of the way. Now I actually go to Tarmina in the university, and she tells me the key to getting into the Mythic Dawn cult would most likely be in the 4 books of Mythic Dawn commentaries, and she let me one of them, which puts me up to 2 books. She said that if I wanted to find the 3rd volume, that I should check the 1st edition, a bookstore in the market district. At the bookstore, I was told that a man already bought the copy available, so I waited for the customer to arrive. Then I told him that his cult was bad, and they killed the Emperor. Somehow he didn't know that, and he said that I could have the book as he wanted nothing to do with that. Now that I had 3 of the 4 books, it was time to get the last one, which we needed to actually visit some members of the Mythic Dawn to get. Boris tells me he knows that part of the sewers well, and we head down. This part was horrible. Not the sewers in general, there were just some mud grubs and rats on the way. I'm talking about meeting with the Mythic Dawn sponsor. Either Boris or I had to meet the sponsor while the other one hides and waits if things go south. I couldn't do this part to save my life. I mean, I could have just let Boris die and finished the rest of the Mythic Dawn members myself, but that's not my style. Over and over, Boris kept dying. He would meet the sponsor and die. I would meet the sponsor and he would die. I eventually put the challenge on hold for a moment and switched my difficulty to very easy to make myself feel better, and that worked. Of course, I switched it back to normal and loaded the save so I didn't forfeit the challenge, but I think I messed something up in the system. For some reason, Boris would now get knocked unconscious instead of actually dying, and I just rolled with it and let Boris get pummeled around while I launched flares at them. We eventually won, and I was able to loot a Ring of Chameleon and a Ring of Fire Shield from the cultists. Then I made my way back to Tarmina with all 4 books. After a few days of looking through the books, she found the secret message in them and told me to go to Green Emperor Way at noon, and the map would be revealed to me. So I did, and wouldn't you know it, the map was revealed to me. Now it's time to make my way to the main Mythic Dawn location and try to retrieve the Amulet of Kings. Notice how I said, tried. When I arrived at the cave, I was greeted by a cult member and said the magic words and was allowed entry. This guy stopped me though and said that if I wanted to actually join the cult that I would have to give up my possessions. I didn't want to do that, so I went gung-ho. I knew that killing the cult members would lead to my untimely death since there were very large amounts of them in the cave. So I ran into the main chamber and interrupted Mankar Cameron's ritual into his paradise by stealing the Mysterium Xarxes right in front of him. Of course, that didn't actually stop him from entering his paradise, but oh well. The way I entered the main chamber was now sealed off, so I had to take an alternate route through the cave systems. I was just about at the entrance to the cave when I got murdered, and now I had to do the whole thing again. Asshole cultists. When I made it back to this part, I had much more health, and I was able to escape the cave with the book and my life. I went back to Cloud Ruler Temple and gave Martin the book. He said that he would most likely be able to decipher the ritual that we would need to gain access to Mankar Cameron's paradise, but in the meantime I should see Joffrey about some spies in Bruma. Joffrey told me the spies liked to stand watch by the Standing Stone right outside of town, and I lucked out as there was one of the spies there when I arrived. After killing them, I took the keys to their house and made my way into the basement hoping to find more info on the other spy. I found the Mythic Dawn's main plans in the basement, but I didn't find the other spy. I took the plans to Joffrey and he said that I still needed to find the last spy, and once again I lucked out as they were waiting for me at the Standing Stone. Thank God this was one of the only Dark Elves I had to kill in this playthrough, as they are very resistant to fire magic. I return to Joffrey, and then he tells me to talk to Martin as he has deciphered some of the Mysterium Xarxes. First, I went into the Blade's sleeping chambers and leveled up to 6. I also got an insider's look at how strong the Blade's ankles are. How can a man sleep like that? Martin tells me the first step of the ritual is to get a Daedric artifact, and bring it back to him. He suggested that I read a book on the different artifacts and shrines. After I read the book, there was a quest marker at Azura's shrine, so that's the one I decided to do. When I arrived at the shrine, I was told to leave an offering of glow dust at dawn or dusk to speak with Azura. Instead of killing the will-o-wisp that's always next to the shrine, I decided to stop at the market district to buy some alchemy ingredients and the glow dust, and to sell some stuff too. Back at the shrine, I gave Azura some glow dust, and she told me she'd favor me if I killed 5 of her followers that were infected by a vampire many years ago. Time to go vampire slaying. These vampires were actually quite easy to deal with, as they are weak to fire magic, and I was able to clear them all relatively fast. Back at the shrine, I was awarded Azura's star for my efforts and made my way back to Martin. He took the item from me and told me to talk to Joffrey about an Oblivion gate that has opened up outside of Bruma. Joffrey told me to help the guards since I was the only one who actually shut one of the gates before. I made sure to level up before I left, then I stopped at the market district to buy some ingredients and potions. I was also attacked by some Mythic Dawn members. Yay! After I was attacked, I also made sure to stop at every Mage's Guild Hall that had an alchemist for extra potions and ingredients. Now it's time to close another Oblivion gate. I was joined by Captain Bird and a few guards. The guards did almost all of the work as we made it to the tower, and whenever they were close to death after a fight, I would heal them with my spell or wait for an hour to heal everyone. We made it to the top of the tower rather fast, and I'd like to say that everyone made it out of the tower safely after I retrieved the Sigil Stone, but the other guards died, and only Bird and I escaped. The Sigil Stone I acquired allowed me to resist disease by 25%, and then I went back to Cloud Ruler Temple. Joffrey was pleased to hear that the gate was closed, but he said that Bruma would need more allies for when the Great Oblivion Gate opened, so I'd have to go to each city and ask for some help. Martin also deciphered the next part of the Mysterium Xarxes, and said that I would need the blood of a god, Tiber Septums to be exact. Joffrey told me where I could find the ancient blade site Sancrator, which housed the armor of Tiber Septum, and I made a note to go there soon. I leveled up to 8, and decided that I would help Bruma gather some allies before I found Tiber Septum's armor. I started in Shadenhall and was told by the Count that he couldn't send help to Bruma as an Oblivion gate had manifested outside of the city. That means I have to shut the gate. Expect to be hearing that a lot for the next few minutes, as I have to shut an Oblivion gate for every single city in Cyrodiil. So it's time for the speed round. The gate in Shadenhall was pretty easy. I could still do enough damage to scamps to not have too much trouble, and all I had to do was go through some caves to make it to the entrance to the tower. The Count's son was here, and I made it my goal for him to survive. His friend didn't, and we made it to the top of the tower and took the Sigil Stone. I was awarded by the Count for bringing his son back alive, and he sent aid to Bruma. The next stop was Breville, and for some reason I couldn't find the clip of me talking to the Count, but it's time for another Oblivion gate. I'm still killing as many of the enemies inside of the gate as I can, but that changes pretty soon as they get too difficult to handle. More caves and towers in Daedra, but I made my way to the Sigil Stone and acquired it. Now to Leyawiin. Once again, I need to shut a gate, and once again, it's a cakewalk. This is when I really started running from the Daedra that were in the gates, as sometimes a flame Atronach would spawn, and I actually can't kill them since they're immune to fire. Sigil Stone. This gate was a bit more difficult as it was the natural disaster one, which meant I had to open up a bunch of natural disaster themed gates to enter the main tower. But after that, it was the same as the last ones I did. The Sigil Stones I'm getting from these kinda suck, and I didn't want to cheese the game by saving in front of the stone before picking it up to be able to get a better stone. Skingrad next. I'm not sure how exactly I was supposed to do this next gate, as I couldn't see a way over to the main tower, so I just walked through some lava, and that worked well enough. Another gate down. Now it's time to ask Kvatch for help, and this one's a little different. Since I already closed the gate, I didn't have to do that, but I still had to help Salvian take back the ruins of the town. Before I continue this quest, I made sure to stop at some alchemists for potions and ingredients. Okay, so this quest was actually incredibly hard. There were a lot of flame Atronachs, and I couldn't kill them. The first step in reclaiming the city was to open the gate so we could get into the castle. So I was back to the temple to go through the Undercroft, and some Imperial soldiers popped up and asked if we needed help, and I said yes. In the catacombs, this guy dies, and after that, I just ran away. The next part was terrible. There were a lot of enemies, and all of the guards eventually died. Now I had to rely on Salvi and Mattias trying to kill them while getting knocked out constantly and waking back up. I repeated this process for a very long time, casting flare at the enemies I could and healing Salvian when he needed it. We eventually overcame the danger, and I was tasked with finding the Count and seeing if he was still alive. The castle was swarming with flame Atronox, so I had to run like crazy to find the Count. The Count was dead, and I was worried I wouldn't be able to talk to Salvian as we were still in combat range, but it wasn't a problem, and he gave me his armor as a reward and sent some troops to Bruma. Now it's time to close the Anvil Oblivion gate, and this one also kinda sucked. The tower was all the way up there, and I'm all the way down here. How do you get up there? Caves, of course. Lots and lots of caves. I didn't even want to talk about this one. I eventually made it to the top and was able to enter the main tower and take the Sigil Stone, which was actually a good one. Resist frost by 25%. Now Bruma has all of the help that I can get it, and it's time to go to Sancretor to get the Armor of Tiber Septum. But first, I made sure to restock on potions and ingredients since I wasted a lot of them in the Plains of Oblivion. Sancretor was absolutely filled to the brim with ghosts, and that wasn't too bad as they usually attacked from resistance and their frost attacks could be easily avoided. The real enemy of Sancretor were the blades that had been corrupted over time. They did a solid chunk of damage and took a lot of flares to kill. After I killed the first one, the now free ghost of the blade tells me that I need to free the other 3 blades in Sancretor so I could get the armor. More ghosts, ghosts, ghosts. The next 3 blades had special weapons and armor, which made the fight even harder to do. One of them actually had a blade that disintegrated armor, so after that battle I was much less protected. The last blade fell pretty easily, and I was able to make it to the main chamber to acquire the armor. Back to Martin. Martin thanks me and tells me I need to acquire a Great Welkian stone for the ritual, and the only known stone left to exist was in Miskergand, so I was off. Miskergand was full of skeletons, goblins, and zombies. Now, while that sounds like a big problem, usually one group of enemies would attack another group of enemies, and dwindle their forces for me. Of course, that didn't change the fact that when I did have to fight, it still took absolutely forever to kill them with flare. But I managed to kill a fair few of them before I found the stone. Grabbing the stone caused some zombies and a lich to spawn in, and I left before they got the chance to kill me. At one point during my exit, I thought I was a goner when I was swarmed by a crap ton of zombies, but I managed to dodge them. When I arrived at Cloud Ruler Temple with the stone, Martin was impressed, and the last thing we needed for the ritual would be a Great Sigil Stone, which we could only get from a Great Oblivion Gate. So now we had to let the Mythic Dawn go through with their plan to open a great gate outside of Bruma. I had to talk to the Countess to start the quest, but first I went to a light armor trainer for a few levels in it since I was kind of lacking in that department. I was able to level up to level 15 from it and went to talk to the Countess of Bruma. She surprisingly agreed to let us open the gate and went to talk to Martin at the chapel. Now it was time for a fight I was not looking forward to. This is why I made sure to get help from all of the cities. I wouldn't be able to do anything at this part. I would die many times before I could even get a single kill on one of these high-level Daedra, so when the fighting started, I just kinda ran around making sure Boris was healed. After a lot of the guards died, the Great Gate eventually opened, and I was able to enter the Plains of Oblivion once again. This gate was a little different than the other ones I did, as it was timed. That was really the only difference, as I made very short work of the gate and was able to acquire the Great Sigil Stone. Once outside, I assessed the damage, and Boris was still alive! Awesome! The only thing left to do now was to open a portal to Paradise and retrieve the Amulet of Kings, but before that, I made one more trip to buy potions. Time to go to Paradise. Paradise was actually pretty peaceful looking. Aside from the Daedra that wander around trying to kill me, I'd totally live here. Since trying to actually kill the Daedra here was a little pointless, I didn't really try after I killed the first one. I ran around until I found this Daedra who said we could work together or we could battle, and as much as I wanted to work together, I decided to battle him. This fight was just a lot of strafing and making sure my flares hit him. He hit for a lot of damage, so I had to be careful, but in the end, I killed him and took the bands of the Chosen to enter deeper into Paradise. There were plenty of Daedra inside of this new area, but I ignored them all until I found a man who was willing to help me get out of these caves. We were able to fool his Daedra boss into thinking I was being tortured, and I was able to make it farther into the cave. Not soon after, he took my bands off for me and I was able to escape the cave. Now comes the last real fight of this challenge, killing Mankar Cameron and his family. Oh man, this fight was difficult. Not in the sense that I died a bunch, I actually made it through this fight without dying at all. It was hard because I couldn't get a good vantage point to hit Mankar Cameron, which was the only one who needed to die. I settled on standing on the chandeliers up here, and that worked pretty well, but he would sometimes just move frantically, making it hard to hit him. His family was also casting magic at me constantly and running up the stairs to hit me while I was on the chandelier. After a while of whittling down Mankar Cameron's health, I was able to get him into this corner where he didn't move, and that was all I needed to kill him. I made sure to loot the bodies of the Camerons and got some good loot and the Amulet of Kings. Paradise was now ripping itself apart with the death of Mankar Cameron, and I was teleported out into Cloud Ruler Temple. The last thing that we had to do now that we had the amulet was to actually make Martin Septim Emperor by having him light the dragonfires in the Imperial City. While this was supposed to be an easy task, it quickly turned into something much worse. Mehrunes Dagon had started an all-out attack on the city while we were talking to Chancellor Okado, and now his actual physical avatar was in the mortal world, practically making him invincible. Martin and I still had to go to the Temple of the One and light the dragon fires, and when we arrived, Martin sacrificed himself to save the world of man, and I beat Oblivion using only Flare. This challenge was kind of stupid, not gonna lie. Combat was hard, and later on it was near impossible. Probably don't do this challenge unless you don't have anything better to do. If you enjoyed today's video, think about liking it and subscribing, as that stuff helps me bunches. Also, check out this playlist of other challenges I've done. Make sure to join the Discord and follow me on Twitch, as I stream some footage from my challenges on both of those services. The links are in the description, and until next time, stay safe out there, and peace out.